Rishi, I think your microphone is blocked.
Yeah, it's recording now, Carl. Let's go. Yep.
Well, those of you who are with us, welcome to this workshop. There are some things that I need to describe the circumstance of it in advance, and then we'll actually begin the formal aspects of it. We're running this workshop knowing that there's a wide range of experience in the participants. Some of you have never worked in a geodesign structure before, and I know that some of you have been with us before in workshops and have your own methods of working. We also are well aware that the group of people in any group within this kind of an enterprise is coming from different disciplines. Some of you are planners, landscape architects, GIS specialists. We have an archaeologist among us, geographers, and we're going to be running a workshop based on a typical large project circumstance supported by Rishi's software. Rishi is in the picture, and he's the one who's coordinating the meeting. Two things need to be understood. The first thing is we're going to be simulating making a plan for 30 years from now for the capital city of Cagliari, the capital city of Sardinia, which is a province of Italy. Michele, who's going to be running most of the workshop with me, is a professor in the University of Cagliari, and one of his activities is advising the government on doing exactly the kind of project that we are going to simulate in the workshop. The aim is not to make a perfect plan for the city. There's no way. You don't know the place. We're only going to be working in small groups, and we're going to be doing it in 6 hours. So we can't pretend that we're making a real plan for a real place. What we are doing is simulating the kinds of actions that are necessary in order to make a planning proposal for a city that is going to grow substantially in the next 30 years and under slightly different, in fact, maybe dramatically different circumstances. So we shouldn't be arguing very much. We should be doing things quickly in order to see the next step and the next step and the next step and the next step in a process. And so you can't defend your initial positions like you might in a real circumstance. You need to be willing to say, all right, let's get on with this. Let's go to the next step. The second thing by way of a broad introduction, and that is one of the things that we're testing for ourselves as teachers, in a sense, and professionals, but also for you, is how can this work when we're not all together? I have more than 50 years of experience, both teaching and consulting, in a circumstance where we're all together in one room or in a series of rooms, and I'm meeting people and I'm asking them questions and getting answers and trying to accumulate the knowledge to make a synthesis. But now what we're doing is we're working over the internet where everybody is in a different place. And that's going to be different. It's not the same as meeting people in face-to-face. But it's something that we have to be prepared for. Many of the American universities and the English universities, I'm sitting in London, by the way. I'm in London, and Rishi is in Dublin, Ireland. And one of the realities of academic life in America and in England now is that many of the universities in the next year are teaching on the internet, and many of them have to run collaborative teaching exercises. And how do you do that? What are the differences? One of the big differences is we normally teach a workshop in 8 hours to 30 people all in the same room. But you can't really do that psychologically on a computer. So we're doing it in steps, and it's something that Rishi has done more of than I have. But it makes sense. So we're doing it in steps. And the steps have time limits. And so it's going to be very, very important during this workshop that you understand that the time limits are important. And if anybody is late, the whole system is late. So it's much better not to be finished, but to be on time than to be finished and to be late. That's extremely important. Because if you're late, we stop your work and you don't proceed. You're out, okay? So that's, and for students, for young students, that's psychologically very difficult for them because they believe it has to be finished and perfect. But it doesn't. It's better to be on time, unfinished, than to be finished and late. The third thing, those of you who are experienced in a design structure, a structure where you have to take many people and many ideas and put them together, you're used to methods which are sequential. You take the first step, then the second step, then the third step, and you make it and make it more. This is a different process in two ways. It works in groups of ideas, and they are diagrams. And the process is iterative. This means that in the way we work, in our experience, your first design is never the best design. The second one will be better, the third one will be better, and the fourth or fifth ones may be worse than the third one. And so you go back to your third one. It's an iterative process. And this is the crucial step. That is the assumption that your first idea is not the best idea. For most people, that's a terrible idea. It's totally different from the way they've been taught. But that's the way these processes work. They work by iterative improvement until it's no longer being improved, in which case you stop the work. Okay, so what we're going to be doing in its broadest sense is today we're going to talk about some of the main ideas. We're going to introduce you to the software, which Rishi will do. We'll go into the software, into what we call the sandbox, which is for practicing, making diagrams and editing diagrams. Then we'll talk to you about the real problem that we're working on. Then in the end, we'll tell you what the task is between now and the end of Sunday. And then you'll each have to do a small amount of work. It should take you much less than 1 hour before the workshop. And on the workshop, we will have a large number of ideas, and we'll deal with the strategies of making a design in an iterative manner using diagrams where everybody is working remotely. And it'll be a very complicated project with many ideas and many people having to ultimately come together. So let's just begin. And Rishi, I'd like to share my screen. So I'm going to share my screen. And now I've got too many screens. I need to take this one, and this one, and this one. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, just a minute, then I may not be in the right place. I need to escape, and I need to go back into Zoom. This is the slide I need. Share screen. Can you see that? Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. Let me go back. Come on, go back. All right, now I need to minimize your pictures. Okay, So on the top, what you see are different scales of problem, from designing a house to designing the whole world. And we're most interested in the three scales and sizes that are in the middle, which is a large project, the expansion of a city, or an entire watershed or region, or even a country. And the generic problem is, how do we organize and conduct the very beginning and strategic stages of designing for longer term change in a large, multi-system, multi-client, and contentious, meaning argumentative, context, and one which should not become a zero-sum game. Let me say this in simpler terms. This is a large, complicated problem where people do not agree, and they have to negotiate, because if they don't negotiate, somebody will win, but everybody else will lose. And that's a zero-sum game. And this is very frequently the normal situation for important and complicated projects and studies, especially in this middle range. And there are three global ways, three ways in which these projects are normally managed. And each of them has a liability. Each of them has a problem. The first one is very common, and that is the governor or the president or the mayor invites a company to make a plan, commissions a company or a department of government to make a plan. And the people don't agree. That's why they all have different colors. And a team is organized, and the team makes a design, and maybe makes a second one, maybe makes a third one, and eventually presents it to the people of the place and their advisors, which are scientists, which are planners, which are technology people. And they say no, so they make a fourth plan. They make another plan. And eventually they say, this is okay, let's present it as our final plan. And the plan has information. It has what are the decision models, what are more important than others. It has a physical plan. It has a program and whether it's been met. It has impacts and it has costs. And the commission which is deciding says yes, but they'll never know. They'll never know if there's another plan if they had asked somebody else. The second method is a competition. And in Europe, for example, this is by law. In many places, it's by law that you have to make an open competition or an invited competition. And so a group of teams, or even one internal team, might make several designs. And several people or several companies might present to the same group. And they all present. And those people will then decide, we think 3 of these should go forward and 3 of them should stop. And the problem is that every one of these designs has a different decision model, a different plan, a different program being met, a different set of impacts, and a different set of costs. And eventually, they'll decide on one. But the criteria that they've used don't always favor one design. Each design may have some strengths. And so they'll typically ask people to take ideas from others and make a new design. A competition will almost never result in a perfect plan where the others aren't having at least something that's better. And so we generally use and prefer to use something called collaborative negotiation. And the difference is that in this approach, the competing teams believe they own their ideas. And in this approach, all ideas are public. So we might say there are a group of interests who disagree. Each one of them should have their own plan, but then they should eventually start to informally informally share. If they see something that's better, they should take it. And eventually they should decide, who should we negotiate with? Who are we compatible with or symbiotic with? Compatible meaning who is working like we are working. Symbiotic meaning we're doing part of it better, but they're doing part of it better. Let's get together and share our best ideas. And so we organize a negotiation in stages and eventually come out with a final design. And the difference is that we've carried our collective ideas by negotiation all the way through a process toward a final design in which nobody gets everything, but everybody theoretically gets enough to be satisfied. And this is the process that we're going to be simulating in the workshop that's beginning now. We're going to go through a collaborative negotiation with 8 teams in 2 scales, and we hope to get near a final design, if not to a final design, in the 6 hours. We're going to be following a framework that I wrote about in 2012. This book, called A Framework for Geodesign, is now in about 7 languages. It's being translated now into Arabic and Farsi and Serbian and Hebrew, but it's in many of the European languages and in English. It's a book which basically is full of questions. It could be used as a textbook very easily. It's in Japanese, it's in classical Chinese. It's based on the idea that these 4 groups, the people of the place, the scientists, geographic scientists, design professionals, and information technologies, which are color-coded, can share in a collaboration the making of ideas, models, and designs. It's presented as a linear process, but it's never linear in application. And the reason that you need a framework is because if you make a mistake, you know where you are and you can go back. And it happens all the time. I don't care if you use my framework or anybody else's, but you do need an organized framework when collaborating on a large, complicated design. Believe me, you need a framework that everybody understands. The workshop that we're going to do is about synthesis, putting ideas together and evaluating them and doing better and better iteratively. And so we're asking the what, where, and when questions about making a large geo design. Synthesis is an iterative process. Iterative meaning it cycles in an improving cycle. And the sequence of synthesis matters. What you do first influences what you do second. So what you do first is really, really important. And this is what makes geodesign a complex and dynamic process, because when you do something, it changes the conditions. And there are about 10 rules. It's complex. Each system has representation meaning data. And it's not just mapped data. Process and evaluation models. There are many ways to change and improve systems. We assume at least 10 ways. So if we have 10 systems and 10 ways, we have 100 ideas. And we hope that on Monday, when we meet, I think we meet on Monday, maybe not, we may meet on Friday. When we meet next in the workshop, we hope to have 100 ideas. Each is a diagram of a policy or a project. A policy is something which guides projects. A project is something which is built. These can be drawn, they can be partial, they can be derived in GIS, or they can be rule-based, algorithmic, or smart. There are many ways of synthesis. There are many ways of synthesis, of making a design. Some are more effective than others, depending. depending on the problem that you have, its size, its scale, its time, its talent, its information. A design is a relational synthesis in space and time of sets, groups of system changes. It's not one at a time. It's things that happen in groups. All changes feed back to update data, process, and evaluation models. Each change has impacts, not only for itself, but across all systems. If you build something, you're taking the land away from another system, or you're helping another system, or hurting another system. Change is based on different decision models, alternative scenarios, sensitivity assessments, and there can be many of them in a geodesign study. A geodesign study typically compares many designs, not just make one. And these must be compared and negotiated, and usually one design must evolve and be selected for proposed action. And any implementation in the future updates the representation, process, and evaluation models. So it's a cyclical process which you happen to stop at any given time to look at and to implement change and to propose change. And it has an implicit workflow, which is normally something like this. You have a group of people. They decide, yes, we're going to do a study. They organize a decision model and a bunch of systems and find people who know something about them. Those people organize data, make a process model, and make an evaluation model, and they propose ideas, which are diagrams of policies and projects. There are things that you know will happen, and every place has a history. And for every one of these systems, there are possible ideas which you have to combine into making a design. The design will have impacts, and we will iterate it. We could change the data, change the model, change the evaluation criteria, but what we are going to do is change the design. We're going to change the feedbacks in here, update the impacts, and at a certain point, we're going to say change scale, negotiate across scale. And the same process occurs, but at a different scale. And eventually, it goes to these people who have to say, review it, make a decision, and do it again 20 years later or 10 years later. This is an iterative cycle that never stops, but we happen to stop it by convenience every few years. And there are many ways of making a design, and they depend on scale. When you work at this scale of a house, you might want to use these methods. When you're working at the globe, you might want to use these methods. When you're working in the middle, we think these methods are better. At this scale, you might sketch designs, adding to complexity. At this middle scale, you use groups of diagrams, and you make groups of diagrams and different groups of diagrams. And you can change the diagrams, edit the diagrams. At this scale, you probably would use rule-based and mathematical models and leap to the future design. And you might change the parameters in your rules and the parameters in your models. And these are very different. Some of them are based on certainty, some include uncertainty, and some you know the rules, but you don't know what the future should be. They're very, very different psychologically. And we've experimented with this in 2015 and 11. And we've learned that at different scales, different methods are better. And if you look at where my cursor is, we've tracked the improvement of projects. And at some point they get worse. So you go to here. And typically the third or fourth design is the best design. And so we've related the complexity of making a design and the complexity of the process models with scale. And these are better here, and these green ones are better here, and the blue ones are better here. And so we're going to work with diagrams. And the reason we work with diagrams is because both scientists and designers think in diagrams, not in precise data. And so the design which we're making, which is a strategic diagram, is, quote, something like this. It is not precisely like this. Our diagrams are not precise. They're rough, but they're close enough to understand the relationships among the systems. And that's what we're after. We're after the beginning stages of a strategy, which then can be studied at a smaller size for specific projects and policies. And that's really, really important. If the strategy is wrong, the projects are wrong. It doesn't work the other way around. If the projects are right, the strategy may still be wrong when it's cumulated. And the best, in my opinion, software to manage this kind of process is Rishi's software called GeoDesign Hub. There are other systems which can do this, but this one is designed to do this and to do it in a collaborative way. So let me turn this over to Rishi, knowing
Carl,
that,
sorry.
yeah.
Rishi left the room, so you can introduce this, or I can, as you prefer.
I'll do it then. Okay, he left the room, which means he's no longer listening either. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can call him if we need him.
Okay. Why don't you call him, ask him if he wants me to do it or if he wants to do it. Email him quickly.
No, I think he prefer us to do it.
Okay, then fine. All right, so Rishi, you've all met Rishi, you've seen him. Rishi is an engineer. He's a graduate of Michigan University and MIT in Boston, Massachusetts. He's a mechanical engineer. He worked for many years for Microsoft, matching industrial and commercial processes to Microsoft software. And then he decided to come to the Center for Advanced Spatial Analysis at CASA at University College London, where I'm an honorary professor. And his doctoral thesis, I was one of his advisors, and he basically implemented the workflow that's implied in my framework, which has been used for 50 years by me and some of my former students. And he basically built a piece of software that really works. He started a company called geodesignhub.com. It's a company which owns the software. He makes the software free to universities that are inside the collaboration, the International Geodesign Collaboration, and to other universities. And he does not sell the software. He rents the software to governments and to companies who are private for their consulting work, and he consults to them on organizing it. It normally takes about 2 or 3 months to run a project, and it takes about a month to organize it. And if it's collaborative, the most difficult thing is getting all the people on their schedule to be able to work together. That usually takes 3 months. But the actual work can be done easily in a week. And for those of you who teach, it can be very easily done over a semester where your students are doing absolutely everything, but doing it in a studio collaborative context. There's a very good video by Rishi in this information which we sent to everybody. The software does the tasks that are in the red in this diagram. It operates on the cloud. I can tell you that it imports and exports in any basic computer language, anything that you need to import or export for your own existing work. You can do anything in the software, in any GIS system, any modeling, any visualization, any algorithmic design. What it does, as long as it uses the language that we've imposed in the workflow, which is standard colors, a standard language, and standard color codes. That's very important because what we've done in the collaboration is make it possible for people to negotiate across scales of independent projects. And you will see in the collaboration that we're moving toward almost global integration across designs. And to do that, we have to be able to speak the same language. So we're imposing a language. The color codes are not negotiable. In order to set up a project, these are the things that are the inputs to working in GeoDesign Hub. First of all, in the upper left, you have 10 systems. You can work in fewer, and sometimes you can work in more. But normally we work in 10 systems, each of which has a color, but they're not equally important to everybody in a study. Different groups disagree. Then you need a study area. And the study area needs to be in a square. And the square is there so that it has a context. If you're working for a city or a watershed, you have to show what's outside it. It needs a program of change. How much land in each system do we need to change for a particular point in the future? And you have to propose that. You could make different alternatives with different programmatic amounts. You need to assess and evaluate the terrain of location. You need to evaluate locations for each of these systems. Each system has an evaluation model. And the evaluation model is in these 5 colors. And the 5 colors have a meaning. And here they are below. They're all in the same color code, one for each of the 10 systems. The 10 systems that we're using in this workshop are agriculture, which is the largest land use, green infrastructure, lower density housing, industry, a particular kind of institution, which is a smart computer-oriented development community, energy, high density housing mixed with commerce and institutions, and cultural protection. Red means this is an existing area that's working well. Leave it alone. Stop. Yellow means this is a location which is not appropriate for this use. It could be because of soil, it could be of hazards, it could be for any reason. These 3 are possible. This one, the light green, means that it's capable of supporting this activity, but there is no infrastructure to support it. The land is capable, but there's no infrastructure. The middle one says it's suitable. The land is capable and it has infrastructure. The dark green one says it's feasible. It has the land capability, it has the infrastructure, and there's a market for it in this location. So the best places are these in dark green, second best are lighter green, third best are lightest green. Yellow is to be avoided unless you want to make a very big investment, and red should be left alone. Then in the lower right, there's a simple set of models, but you can substitute your own for the impacts that evaluate any system on any other system, where orange means it's a very bad impact. Yellow means it's neutral, there's no real change. And purple means it's a good impact for other systems. And finally, there's a cost model. What do these things cost? Now, inside the software, if you need it, are global data, global models, and global costs, because we've studied these in other projects. So you can use the global averages, or you can substitute your own values for your own study area. We are using the ones in Cagliari, Italy, because Michele and his team have done all of this work in advance. But this is work that your students could do if you're teaching. Let them talk about politics. Let them decide about the study area. Let them develop the program. Let them make the evaluation models and learn some GIS. Let them figure out the costs. Let them then do what we're going to do, which is make the policy diagrams and make the designs and publish it and do whatever you want. And over a semester, that's a very good course that a lot of people need to do. So it's a dynamic system. We're going to make the evaluation models. We're going to make the diagrams. We're going to make several designs in several iterations and negotiate to a final one. We can use timelines for when things happen. We can calculate the costs. We can put it into 3D. And actually, every aspect of this is dynamic in the software and can be changed and iterative. Now, the collaboration itself is what we're building this workshop in. And there are already 150 universities that are in the collaboration. I know that some of you are at these. In Thailand, Chulalongkorn is in it, Ritsumeikan is in it in Japan. Many of the main American universities and European universities are in it. New Zealand is in it. I don't know if you're in Christchurch or Auckland, but Christchurch is in it and Auckland is in it. And we've already completed 96 projects. These are the 10 systems. They're all square. They're all using these innovations. We're only going to be using the early adopter innovation. And they all use the UN sustainability goals to evaluate their projects. The study area that we're going to be using is Cagliari, which is the capital city of Sardinia. And let me turn it over now to you as background to Michele, who will take you through and introduce you to the city. Michele?
Yes.
I'm going to now escape from here and go back into Zoom. And I'm gonna go into Zoom. Come on, I'm gonna close cancel. Just hold on a second. I'm gonna minimize this, go into Zoom. Why can't I see Zoom?
Actually, Carl, I think I can just unshare your screen and share mine.
My screen sharing is paused. Stop share. Okay. I think I've stopped sharing now, right?
Can you see my screen now?
Good.
Can you see me, yeah? Can you see my screen, Carl?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the study area. This is in, in the south of Sardinian island. This all is the new metropolitan city of Cagliari. Cagliari itself is here in the middle. The new metropolitan area was established in 2016 for the first time. It includes 17 municipalities. Okay. The total population in the area is a little bit less than 500,000, for 430,000 people. And let's say a little bit, 60% of it lives in Cagliari and in Quarto Sant'Elena, the two major bigger municipalities. On the left, you can see the current land uses. The dark green is a natural landscape, forest, basically, in the mountains. You have mountain in the southwest, in the west and in the east. You have the sea in the south and a big Campidano plain, mostly agricultural land in the northwest. Then you have the bigger conurbation of Cagliari in the middle of the Gulf. And you can see two very big wetlands. This is a big lagoon, Santa Gilla Lagoon, and the Molentargius Pond. There is a little bit of industrial archaeology in the wetlands, and besides Sant'Agila, there is the biggest industrial area. So in the southwest, there are the biggest in violet, the biggest industrial plant. And the rest is mostly smaller town and municipality. You can see in brown, higher density, and in yellow, lower density housing. And then the rest is light green, is mostly agricultural land. This picture are here just to evocate a little bit the landscape and the character of the study area. Sardinia is a very old land. We have archaeological site dating back to the Bronze Age, and we have the typical stone towers called nuraghi. So the island was inhabited since very long time. And then we had the Phoenicians, the Romans, and then at a certain point in medieval time, Middle Ages, we had, after Middle Ages, we had the Spanish domination and so on and so forth. So the island is rich in cultural heritage and also in tradition. And then, as we saw in the map, we have a big agricultural land. This is mostly not very much industrialized agriculture. So it's quite easy to find a biological product, pretty much traditional way of doing agriculture. And the people, the local community like to eat well, like genuine food. Genuine food is available and usually cheap and usually local. And this is true for agriculture. This is true for fisheries. And then, as you may know, Sardinia is also very popular for the coastal landscape. We have wonderful beaches. And so we have also tourism related to, say, sun and beach kind of tourism, not so developed as in other Mediterranean countries such as Spain or Greece. So it's still under development, but it is an important share of the local economy. In addition, in the last 20 years, Cagliari hosts one of the first European internet service provider that is called Tiscali. And this generated a little bit of development in terms of smart companies and smart industry. And there's a good background for developing in this kind of sector. And so this is also why we consider the system that we call smart institution, that is basically trying to foster this kind of activities. So to wrap up, Carl already introduced the 10 system. We have blue infrastructure, water infrastructure. We have agriculture. We have green infrastructure. We have these two big forests on the west and the east that should be more connected. And we have the wetlands. We have energy infrastructure, and this is more oriented to green energy. Then we have to deal with transport as well. And we want to improve industry, not in the sense of making more industry, but improving the technology in industry. Consider that the total population in the island is about 1.5 million. So it's a very low density island, and the economy is proportionate to that. So we want smart and industry, not bigger industry. We want a smart services and institution, as well as lower density housing and higher density housing. And then, as I introduced, cultural heritage is very important, also in relation to tourism. And we did some estimate about the total land in hectares that we need to improve. We need to devote to the different systems. And these numbers are available here in the slide for you, but also are encoded in the GeoDesign Hub. And this scheme basically gave you an idea about the proportion between the whole study area and the amount of land we need to develop for each system. And in our design, we want to use the technology innovation taken from the IGC. All the pattern of the IGC collected for each system a number of possible technology innovation that we can use nowadays and and some maybe not available yet, but we can forecast to see maybe in 10 years, to use in 10 or 20 years in the future, that basically address differently, thanks to technology innovation, the way we develop the different system and land uses. And there is a list here. These are from the bigger list from the IGC. And we selected this list because we think that this kind of technology innovation are more appropriate for the study area, but you can always refer to IGC website to have a broader look at the description of this technology innovation. And as Carl mentioned, for each of the 10 systems, we develop an evaluation map, basically suggesting where it is more or less appropriate to develop the system. I will briefly describe our evaluation map for the study area. This is the water infrastructure. You can see there is no red here. It means that basically there is a lot to be done. And this is in the green. And the darker the green, the most urgent it is. In particular, in this map, the darker green means that you have hydrological hazard problem issues to solve. And the medium green basically indicate that there is a resource, so there is a water body, and so this is appropriate to develop maybe a water park or some kind of blue infrastructure related kind of development. And so basically these are the two most important priorities for the study area: reduce hydrological risk and protect blue infrastructure. This is the evaluation map for agriculture. Basically in yellow you can see the area where there's basically the soil is not good for agriculture, either because it is built or because it is in the water bodies, or because the slope is too steepy and it is a forest. So all the other all the other land is classified basically in the medium dark green is the best soil to develop agriculture, and the light green the less good soil for agriculture. In this case, we want to improve agriculture, again producing good bio products, but also improving the production system using technology in order to save water, in order to improve production. This is the green infrastructure evaluation map. We see some very big red areas to the west and to the east. This is the natural forest. This is pretty much well preserved, so that doesn't need many action from mankind to continue to work well. And we have also the lagoon and the pond, two big wetlands. And the pond is a national park, so it is protected and managed. And also there is some protection. There are some protection measure on the Santa Gila Lagoon, so they are protected. And basically here, except in the yellow where you have settlement, at this scale we want basically to connect these big patches that are working well, starting from the darker green. There are the area that are still with a forest, mostly forest land uses, but probably with some pressure with anthropogenic environment. So we want to preserve natural areas and to connect natural areas. This is an energy infrastructure evaluation map. Again, in red we have the location of the main nodes of the energy infrastructure, either production or transformation. And then we have the yellow areas where there is it's not appropriate to develop energy infrastructure, and then with a different shade of green, more or less appropriate areas. In this case, with regards with the energy system, we want mostly to go green. This is a European policy at the moment, and it is also a very big opportunity for clean development for Sardinia as well in the area. Transportation. We see the transportation map identify in identifies in red and dark green the existing infrastructure. When this is linear infrastructure, mostly road infrastructure, and when it is red, it means that the road has a good level of service, so basically it's working well. But in some segment of the network, you see it's dark green because this is where there is more traffic, the level of service is not appropriate to the traffic flows, and or there might be some maintenance problem. However, this is not only about to improve the existing, but also it's about better connecting all the areas. The areas is growing probably about 25,000 people in the next 20 years. So we need more land to develop, also to accommodate the residential function, and we need to locate somewhere and also to ensure the new connectivity. So we want to work on the ring road, and you have to decide basically, but it should best be located. Also, we want to we may consider to develop a metro line. There is at the moment only one here in red. This is working well, and maybe on a different scale, we may want to develop a cycling network also to reduce heavy traffic and to go green. And also this is a good option also for maybe for tourism and for connecting cultural heritage sites. Industry, as I mentioned, most of the industry, heavy industry is located near the lagoon in the Middle West, and there is a big oil refinery here in red in the southwest. And then you have lighter industry and commerce along the main axis that goes from Cagliari to the north of the island. This is the main highway, and you have commercial and light industry development here, and a little bit smaller enterprises scattered a little bit near the conurbation. In this sense, again, we don't want to grow much industry, we want just to turn it green, mostly. Institutions and smart services. In red, you have the location, basically the main university campuses and other center where smart companies work. A big research center in the southwest in Pula. So basically we want to extend a little bit and to improve this, this setting, and maybe create a new smart center that can coordinate all of this smart development. Lower density housing, in yellow, basically when you have physical constraint or where you already have higher density housing, so it's not appropriate. And in red, near the main conurbation and in other scattered areas near other smaller towns, you have a lower density housing. That is pretty much the most common typology, urban fabric in the smaller town. And in green, suitable areas for further development. And this is very interesting because the green is not everywhere. Each municipality usually used to plan locally, and they want new residential areas locally, because this is one of the biggest priority in the tradition of the local planning system. But if we work on the metropolitan level, basically not all the municipality can accommodate lower density housing. And this is a very interesting issue when you pass from the local to the metropolitan scale, I believe. Higher density housing, basically the red is where existing, mainly in the center of Cagliari and in a little bit in the municipalities surrounding Cagliari, and the green, where you have the dark green, where you have lower density, you can densify a little bit. Last but not least, cultural heritage. Here you have in red the historic center that already has adopted a historic center redevelopment plan. So basically they are managed, they are in a good shape, they are well managed by municipalities, and some major archaeological sites. This big site here is industrial archaeology and basically a salt farm from the past, still partially working. And then in green you have The green basically indicates the density of archaeological sites. So you see many along the coast, a little bit less in the north. So the idea here is basically to improve accessibility and connectivity to archaeological sites. And basically you go to the dark green when you have higher density. Okay, so basically after, in the first phase of the process, you will be proposing diagrams which may represent projects or policies. And in the second part, you will work in team. And some teams are global, that it means that their interests affect the whole area. And some, the first four, and the last four, actually, they are local. You can see the boundaries in the map. You have Cagliari, the capital city, and surrounding municipality teams. You have the southeast teams, you have the northwest team and the southwest team. The global team start with Metro. Metro basically represent the metropolitan government, which aim is basically achieving spatially balanced development. They want to balance development across the whole area, and they want to improve transport, water infrastructure, energy, and tourism. These are the major priority for the metropolitan. The developers there is also global. They are interested in the whole area, and basically they want to improve economy, and including housing, industry, smart services and institution, and tourism. The green, actually, not surprisingly, they want to protect the environment as first priorities. They want to develop, to protect the water infrastructure, the green infrastructure, and the cultural heritage. As well, they want a sustainable tourism development relating to the natural infrastructure and the cultural infrastructure. The farmers want to improve agriculture, making more profitable, but in sustainable way. So they want to produce biofarming, agri-food, high-tech farming, in order to save resources and improve the production. And also they want to have as a complementary development, associate tourism activity to their main agricultural activity. Now the local teams, the Cagliari teams, this is basically the Cagliari area, and the Cagliari teams involve probably 60%, about 50% of the total population. But Cagliari is, since 2000 years ago, the capital of the city, the major settlement. They have the port, they have the airport, and they have the majority of the business, and they want to maintain a leading role for Cagliari. The citizens from the southeast, they have Quarto Sant'Elena, the second biggest municipality, about 100,000 people, 90,000 people. They have the city center here, but then in the coast, they have a development that was quite unplanned, including some illegal development in the coast. Basically, people aiming at a lower density housing model near the sea, near the beaches. And so this needs to be requalified. There is a small tourist harbor here. There are some resources, a lot of cultural heritage, and they are surrounded by the mountain, basically with an existing green infrastructure they may want to connect to. So they want to develop tourism to improve overall urban quality and accessibility to the part on the coast. In the northwest, they have a little bit of industry near the lagoon, but they have also a lot of agriculture. This is mostly agricultural land, and just surrounded by a little bit by the mountain in the lower left part. And so they want to develop mostly a combined both industrial and agricultural development, improving the technology, they want to develop a little bit of services and housing related to this. Last but not least, we have the southwest. In this area, big part of the land is a mountain area, so there is not much to do there. But there is, of course, a good infrastructure to be connected to the coast. There is a big oil refinery here, providing a lot of jobs, and but also polluting the environment. You have a lot of agricultural heritage. You have a high quality agriculture production. It's not very big, but is of a very economically profitable and very high quality product in agriculture. They are not very well connected to the city, so they need to improve accessibility. This is a growing area. And in the lower part, you have a lot of hotels and second houses. So this is probably in the whole area the most tourist area. Again, not high density tourism, low density tourism. This is probably the most expensive tourist area, and they want to develop more. And last but not least, they have also a Roman town, a very popular archaeological site, big one with an amphitheater, with ancient thermes, so it's very, very popular and valuable. And one thing you should know is the regional governor of Sardinia comes from this village. So this village, in a way, is kind of powerful in making decisions in the whole area, as well as Cagliari, that is the capital city. Okay, I think I'm done with the presentation of case study, so I will stop sharing, and I'll give the word again to Carl.
I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, then what do I need to do? Just let me go into Zoom. I'm sharing my screen, share my screen. There's my screen.
Select the frame.
I have it right, there's the frame.
Maybe double click.
Double click.
Okay, it's coming.
Just a minute, let me make it big.
Here we are, very good.
Okay, now everybody take a deep breath, just deep breath. You realize, having been introduced to this study area in the past hour, that it's complicated. And there's no way that any one person can understand this problem. There's no way. So it has to be something that is organized with a group of people who play somewhat general roles and somewhat special roles. And what we're going to do in the workshop, if you watch, we're going to be in this perform study. Michele has shown you the data. He's shown you the process models. He's shown you the evaluation models. And all of the PowerPoints that we've shown you in this morning, I will email to people as soon as we're done with this meeting. What we're now going to do for this workshop is we're going to deal with how do we change the area in policies and projects? How do we make a design? What are the impacts? Is it a good enough design? It will not be a good enough design. We're going to do it again and maybe change scale. And then we're going to negotiate with another design and we're going to bring it forward. You will see when we start all of the evaluation models. You'll see that we're going to be making diagrams of policies which have the stripes. This is a policy. Projects have solid colors, but each system has its own color, and each project or policy has a number. There are going to be different strategies, which we're going to discuss on later. So you're going to be making a series of designs. You're going to be comparing designs and negotiating them. You're going to be editing and changing the designs in negotiation. You're going to be making a final set of designs. And we can actually, from right to left, we can actually follow how the designs change, negotiate to become a final design. With two teams, each beginning in a different way, agreeing to a final design. And by the end of our workshop next week, we hope to have this process once again. So here's where we are. I need to go to there after we get into the project. This is going to be my ending, Michele.
Okay, so
Now let's go into the sandbox.
okay, so I will take control of the screen.
Yep, you take
Oh, you want to start?
I'll start, yes.
Okay. We have some new colleagues joining that probably missed the first part, so they should probably register in GeoDesign Hub.
They have to go into GeoDesign Hub, and they then have to watch the video. That's all we can do. We can't repeat.
Okay. So now I will copy. After you register, you can join a project. I will send you the link in the chat.
Hold on a second. Do you know if Rishi is listening to this?
No, he's out of the room.
Oh, that's terrible, because I'm not linked into the project.
I can just link you.
Link me to the project and into the sandbox. Please do that.
I just copy the link on the chat.
Okay.
Just click there and you should be in, and I can make you an administrator.
I'm in GeoDesign Hub, but I'm not in the software.
You should cut and paste the link that I pasted in the chat, just in a new window.
Just a minute. I'm not seeing where that is. Okay.
The code is 2g9.
Just a minute.
So p join. Do you prefer to? Sorry, I send out not to all, only to one of you. I will. You have the link now in the chat, Karen.
Sandbox. I have the sandbox.
Okay. I can't see.
Is my screen sharing now?
Not now.
Okay, I have to.
Again.
Hold on a second. I have to get back into Zoom.
Yeah.
So I need to share my screen now.
Yeah.
And where am I? Here it is.
Okay, it's coming.
Okay.
Here we are.
Okay. So everybody can now see that I'm in the sandbox. And what we want to do, excuse me. What we want to do is have everybody scroll down to the IGC Colliery 2020 sandbox. To this position.
Did everybody follow the link that I pasted in the chat? Just click on the link, and you will be linked to the project, and then from your GeoDesign Hub panel, you can click on the project. Let me know if If this does not work, I assume that now everybody is in. If not, please let me know through the chat or just use the microphone.
What they should do is use the microphone if there's a problem, we should. I mean, Michele, maybe it's worth saying to everybody to keep the microphones live. Okay, so I'm going to proceed. Is that?
Yeah, please go.
All right. When you scroll down, you will first come up to something called boundaries. And what boundaries does is it lets you either study the whole area, press it twice, it lets you zoom in, it lets you zoom out, it lets you use in the upper right-hand corner various overlays that are overlain all the time. For example, the major settlements, the major roads, satellite image, and any map lets you zoom in to those things. But what's more important is it lets you look only at your study area. If, for example, you're in the Southwest or the local team, and it lets you set the boundaries. So change boundaries, and then it allows you to say, I only want to see Cagliari, I only want to see Southwest, I only want to see, and everything in the whole software will focus only on your area. Here in constraints, it allows you to say, no matter what we do not touch this area. It's a national park, it's a cemetery, it's the cathedral. It basically removes things from being changed, totally. It also says that you can't improve it. But the most important thing is here in the evaluations. Because what it does is it allows you to explore the evaluations. So let me go back. What everybody should do is follow me. I'm here below the evaluations: low density housing, green infrastructure, water, energy, transport, agriculture, commerce and industry, institutions, mixed, which is high density housing and culture. And we should explore them. For example, where does the low density housing, the transportation, the commerce and industry, the institution, and the high density housing, when put together, want to develop? And they really want to develop in the darkest green areas. And where are the existing settlements which won't be developed? And so what you see here is places that are competing for urbanism. And where are the areas that the Greens might be interested in, which might be the best for green infrastructure, the best for water, the best for agriculture, and the best for culture? And what you see are these chains here. We're looking at very similar areas. So there's a real competition. There's a real competition between the conservation issues and the development issues. We've already started with a series of diagrams. And any diagram has a description. And the description has to be a clear statement of what it is. And we are going to now, in the sandbox, practice making diagrams. And Michele, do you want to lead on that?
Sure. Okay, I will take the screen.
You take the screen. Everybody should be in this part of their software.
Okay, can you see my screen?
I have to stop.
I can't see you all in the project yet.
I think there's a problem because I'm on the web page, but I cannot see my
Michele?
picture on the very top.
Okay, I will go step by step. So you see the link, you have this link on the chat, right?
Correct.
In order to join the project, first of all, you should log
Uncle
in.
Nara, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Carl. So the first thing is you enter with your account. For those who join later, please create an account. This is a very simple step. Once you are logged in, you see a list of projects. Initially, you don't have any project. So in order to join a project, you open another Windows, and please use Firefox or Chrome. If you run a Mac, do not use Safari or any other browser, either Firefox or Chrome. You just copy the link, and the link for joining a project is always the same: www.geodesignhub.com/p/join. This is the root, is always the same, and then you have a 3-digit code. In our case, is number 2, small g, number 9. Okay, 2G9. As soon as you enter, you will see that IGC Cagliari 2020 Sandbox WS1 should be in your project list. Please let me know if it is not the case. Okay, if there is no reaction, once I have this IGC Cagliari project in my project list, I can just click in and go in. At the moment, okay, you see that on top of the window, it's basically a web page, an interactive web page. On top of the window, you have a blue and then a green rectangle. This means that the client is exchanging that data with the server. And these data flows between the client and the servers is quite intense. So sometimes if the connection is not good, internet connection is not good, it may take some time. But otherwise is quite fast. Anyway, the sensing program, the data sensing transfer is quite frequent in the use of the system. Once you join the project, I should see your avatar here. I don't understand why I can't see you. Are you in? Can some of you confirm if you are in the sandbox WS1?
I'm there.
I'm in.
I'm there, but I can only see 3 faces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a
the same.
problem for
I'm
Sins.
also in, but I cannot see the other people.
Okay, I will just inform Rish about that, and maybe he can do something.
I think the most important thing is that most people are getting in with their text, but are not. He may need to refresh. He may need to refresh.
I'm refreshing, but still I see only myself reaching here. I don't know. Maybe I just close the browser, just stop sharing for a while, and I will open a new window.
While you're doing that, Gulnara, can you hear me? It's Carl.
Yeah. Rishi is coming actually, so we can just over supervise. Okay, but I understood that everybody's in, right?
Seems like it. It seems like everybody is in.
Okay, very good. Perfect. So I can proceed. Let me share again my screen. Okay. So basically, there's a little bit of background noise, so maybe you should please stop the mic, switch off the mic. Okay, the first thing we want to do now is to create the diagram. As you will see, the interface is quite straightforward, but we use the sandbox just to, in order to make a little bit of training before going to the new project. So this is a kind of light version of the project in terms of data preloaded in the project. So we have here basically just one line in the diagram matrix that we are going to build, and the data organized by system, low density housing, all diagram in yellow in the column. Green infrastructure, one green, dark green diagram. And in the lower part, we can add a diagram. So this is where we start the process of creating our own diagrams representing projects or policy. We will start with a project. So the diagram will be a field full color.
Solid color.
Yeah. So you go add the diagram, project, you select project, and basically you have a first windows when you have to declare what diagram you are creating. We are in green infrastructure now. So I add a project, new green corridor. Again, it is important that you use a name that is meaningful, not only to you, but also to all the others, because you are proposing a project, but basically you want the other like the project and use it for their design, for their synthesis. So the better it is the description, the better, the most successful will be possibly the diagram. Then you should decide whether the project will be funded by public funding, private or semi-private, or unknown. In this case, we want to build a green corridor. This is a public funding project. And we can choose between line and polygon. In this case, the project will be a polygon. If we want, we can set up start and ending time of the project creation, but you can ignore this for the time being. And as optional information, you can either choose to use the standard cost for development. This, of course, is not very accurate because is a price, is a cost per hectare and will be calculated depending on the diagram size. Or you can just, if you are knowledgeable about the project you are proposing, you can enter. For example, for the project, we want to spend 500,000 euro. And in some cases, you may want to import an external file. I will show you an example later on. But for the time being, we are going to draw by hand, by mouse, our own diagram. So we fill all the metadata. Now we add the diagram. When we add the diagram, a record is created in the system, and we are now ready to draw the diagram. So we go again in the interactive map, and we go in edit map.
You may actually want to look, you may want to look at the evaluation map first.
Yeah. So we want to build a green corridor. So from the bottom, you should see the tick boxes to switch on and off all the evaluation maps. In our case, the most important for us, we want to build a green corridor. So we switch on the green infrastructure evaluation map, and maybe we can decide to connect these two big patches here. So we zoom in the area. We try to find the best, maybe the closest way to connect these two patches. There is here a path with no big development, and maybe so we can add a new feature. And we are now in editing in the sense of any GIS software, and we click, we insert the node of our polygon, we connect the two patches, and to close the polygon, we have to go back to the first node that we did. And look now, as soon as I click in the final node, in the starting node, the graphic change, and the diagram take the color of the system that is green for green infrastructure, and you have dimension in the diagram. You can still modify the shape, but you can see inside the area and in all the segment, the perimeter, the length of the perimeter, okay? When you are done, you save the diagram, you close the window, and you will see the diagram in the matrix. And I can see that some of you already created new diagram, two more of you in green infrastructure, one of you in institutional. Look now, this is from Shao Kun, I hope I pronounced correctly. You generated a new green corridor, but you did it not in the right system. You did it in institutional system. Remember that each column, in fact, it is in blue. Each column here is a system: low density housing, green infrastructure, water infrastructure, energy infrastructure, transportation, agriculture, commercial, industrial commerce, institutional and smart, mixed higher density housing and retails, and cultural. So if you are building a green corridor, you should go to green infrastructure. So depending on the system, you draw your diagram depending on what kind of project it is. You should choose the appropriate system. Okay. Any questions so far?
Well, let's have everybody make a diagram.
Yeah, please everybody make a diagram if you haven't not done yet.
Pick a system and make a diagram.
You can choose a system, you can choose agriculture. Of course, if you choose agriculture, you should do an agricultural project. Okay, now I can see the syncing is working correctly. You can see on top of the page, I can see all of you. You may decide to add a picture to your avatar. You can do it later. It's quite easy. You can find easily instruction on the web to do that. Okay, many of you are creating their own diagram.
Some of you are not saving diagrams.
If you, this is Rishi, what you need to do is what Michele mentioned, which is click the first node, and the color has to change from blue to the system color. That's when the feature has been registered, and then you hit save. Okay, so that you must, before saving, check that the color is the system color.
I will show it again. I will just delete the diagram, and I will do it again. Again, I want to build a green corridor, so I go to the green infrastructure, I switch on the map, the evaluation map for green infrastructure, and now I can see I found a suitable area. Then I start to add a feature. First node, second, fourth, and back to the first node. As soon as I click the first node, the diagram change color, the dimensions appear. At that point, you can save the diagram. It is important for each project, please do only one diagram. Don't do multiple diagrams in the same project.
Each diagram is one diagram, not more. If you have a project that requires 3 diagrams, make 3 separate projects.
Okay, this I can notice here another issue. Diagram water infrastructure number 4 from Ranim. This is also again a green corridor, but you draw it in the water infrastructure system. So be careful to draw the diagrams in the relevant system. If you want the road, if you want to be the road, you go to transport, okay? If you want to add a green corridor, you go to green infrastructure. If you want to add hydrological risk prevention, you go to water infrastructure. If you want to add a condos, you go to low density housing. If you want to add an oil refinery, you go to industry and commerce. If you want to add a smart campus, you go to INST. If you want to create a new museum, you go to culture, okay? For example, protection of the lagoon, water infrastructure number 3 is correct, okay?
Good.
Agricultural land, agriculture number 2, agricultural land is a little bit generic as a name. Please try to define a little bit more. So maybe small.
Where it is, for example, what are you trying to do? In what kind of agriculture it is? Is it a strawberry farm or some other kind of farm?
Is it a technically enclosed, climate-controlled agriculture, or is it changing the technology?
For example, agriculture number 3 is meaningful. New tomato farm. This is very meaningful. It's clear what you want to do. Okay. Also, culture number 2 is a little bit generic. New cult is not really understandable. So maybe you want to create a new open air museum or maybe a museum or maybe something else, a documentation center. Please try to be precise. If you make a mistake, you can still change your own diagrams. If I go back to my diagram here, I can still, I realize that I should change these, so I can go back to my diagram, edit the map, move the nodes of the polygon. If I click on a node, I can delete the node. If I click on a segment, I can add a node. Okay, so I can change shape. And I have
some trouble delete my shape, the whole shape. I want to delete it. How should I do?
If you want to delete, press Ctrl in your keyboards and then click inside the diagram.
If you're on the Mac, press Command, basically. Move the cursor to the middle, it changes to a single finger, and then you press Command on the Mac and Control on Windows.
Do we know if everybody's made at least one diagram?
Okay, we have a 2 diagram under construction, a green belt.
G belt, take the time. You have to be very clear on what you're intending. If The aim of this exercise is to have other people use your diagram. And if they don't understand it, they won't use it.
Green belt, for example, is understandable. This may be too short, but you can define a little bit more, but still understandable. New green corridor is generic, but still understandable. Okay.
One of the things that I would recommend is in a different browser window, open the map of Cagliari and maybe identify towns or neighborhoods or sort of other information. New Greenbelt is a good title, but where is it? Is it to the north of the study area? Is it to the south? Is it to the east? Is it to the west? And so on. So these titles are really not for you, it's for other people. So think about, if you read this, what would you understand from it? So in this case, it would be New Green Corridor to the west of the study area near La Maddalena, for example. That could be the name of this, and everybody understands exactly what it is and where it is.
And of course, when you draw the diagram, you can still use the background layers, the satellite. And if you need, maybe you can switch on the roads, the settlements, and this can help you. Existing planned land use, existing land use, and you can have additional information. So now I see many of you already created the diagram. Green infrastructure number 7 and 8, maybe are you having problem in drawing? You create a diagram, but you did not add the diagram, the graphical part of the diagram. So
We didn't save it, maybe.
again, once you go in, you edit the map. You can add or change an existing feature, and then you save. Once you save, remember the number of your diagram, in this case GI3, go back and check, you can see the diagram in the matrix. Okay. Another thing that I can note, some of you created already a policy. I don't know whether it is by chance. In this case, it's correct. Protection of the lagoon is probably a policy. In this case, power grid, I don't know whether it should be a project or a policy.
It should be a project.
Just remember when you add the diagram that you can choose either a project or a policy. Another important advice is that usually, while project is something physical, you are building something, changing physically the environment, a policy is more intangible. It can be reduced tax zone, can be special regulation in an area. But so in this sense, someone could be tempted to put a very big policy, but try to draw policy only in the area where it is most needed and most relevant. So please don't do policy including very big part of the study area. This is not really helpful eventually when we proceed further in the process. Okay, so in this perspective, these policies are meaningful and correct. They are just affecting a specific area. This one is a power grid. I can always test against the energy infrastructure evaluation model, and it is correct. It's in the dark green, so I can expect this project with good positive impact on the energy system, and might have negative impact on other systems. Okay. So another possibility, now I can go on transport. I want to add a new metro line. So I go to transport system, add, it is a project again. In this case, new metro line connection, Cagliari to Uta, is a smaller municipality. In this case, I draw a line. I know the cost. In this case, it will gonna cost 200,000 million. 200 million. 3 plus 3. There's
One
too
too
much.
many. It's fine.
Okay.
One less.
One more.
One less.
One less. Okay. And add the diagram. I forgot something. What? New metro line. Okay. I cannot see the budget here. Why is it? Let's do it again. Okay, transportation. New project. New metro line. Rishi, I cannot see the budgeting. Is it because it is a line? No. Are you here, Rishi? No, this is probably an issue of a syncing. I think my connection is not working properly now. Can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you. It's Carl. I can hear you, but I also see that the line of the budget, who pays for it is not there.
Yeah, and this is probably a problem because I cannot save the diagram.
Okay, then don't. Then start a diagram, go to energy, start again in energy, add a diagram,
Now
build a new power line.
I will try to relaunch my browser. I don't know why.
Okay,
I believe it's my local problem in my browser. Let's try again. Project. No, it's
my advice, make one more try, Michele. Go to energy, add a project,
still no budget line.
then don't do a budget. See, call it new power line, just call it a new power line. Make it a line, don't add a budget, no optional information, just add a diagram.
No, I am having issue. Let me do like this. I will try to go to another browser. I will move to Chrome. Okay, I will share again my screen now. I just relaunched the browser. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so again, this was a new metro line. Cagliari, Uta is a line, is a public diagram. Now, transport, infrastructure, evaluation map, okay. Okay, now we have a road connection, but this, I assume this area, I want to grow this area and I want a new metro line here. So again, edit the map, add the feature. This time it is a line. I go from Cagliari to the new metro line to somewhere in Uta. Okay, in this case is a line. And to close the line, you double click the last node. So for the polygon, you have to go back to the first node to close. For the line, double click on the last one. And as soon as you see the dimension appearing and the color become the color of the system, you can save the diagram. Okay?
Everybody should make one linear project, whether it's a water project, an energy project, a transport project. Everybody should make one linear project.
Please do it.
You know that you're going to have to build various roads. You know that you're going to have to build some power facilities. You may want to make a trail. You know you want to make a bicycle trail possibly. Everybody should make a linear project or policy, but make it a project.
Anyway, please remember that we will be sending you the PowerPoint, and there is the link to the YouTube tutorial to all the feature of GeoDesign Hub. It's a step-by-step video tutorial by Rishi.
Michele, let me say something to you. When everybody has finished making a line, I propose that what you do in the sandbox is make a design and change a design. Okay?
You mean a synthesis?
Make a synthesis, a big one.
Okay, I will show how to do it.
Show how you pick the diagrams into a design and show how you remove some from the design and know what you're removing.
Okay.
And then I'll do the last part of the introduction.
Yeah, we are now 5 minutes. We are reaching the 2 hours of the meeting in 5 minutes.
We'll finish within 10 minutes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we should get also familiar with the terminology we are using. It is very specific. We call a diagram, which may represent a project or a policy, and this is a single action, development or protection action. But then we call a design or a synthesis, more technical term, and that is an integrated combination on many projects and policies. So if I want to create my design or synthesis for the overall study area, I will start selecting system by system the diagram that I like more. So I can, and to do that, I will show you just the practical part, the technical part. You basically select the diagram you like. On the bottom of the diagram, there is a tick box. You just click it, and you are selecting, this way you are selecting that project or policy to be included in your design or synthesis. So now I selected a combination of diagrams. When you select the tick box, the diagram base become black. So it means that it is selected, and you scroll down and you see the combination of diagram. Okay.
And you can show the upper right hand options that shows the existing urbanization, existing things.
Yeah. And again, as in any browser, you can add river, existing settlement and roads, and you can see your project against the background of the current situation. And of course, you can also switch on and off the evaluation map. Okay. So the first step is to build the diagram. The diagram belongs to anybody. So to make my synthesis, I choose diagram, not only my diagrams, but diagrams by others. Okay. And when I select them, I scroll down and I see the design.
Oh, but Michele, when I see your design, I have a very great difficulty with that Pula green infrastructure project.
This one?
We don't like that project in the design. Would you show me how I can remove that green infrastructure project? I'm not sure which one it is, but show how I can remove that diagram from the design.
I can click on it. I can see this is GI3. If I don't want it anymore, I go up and I just unselect GI number 3.
And now show me the design again, please.
Okay,
Michele.
let's go down. It is not anymore there.
And that's perfect.
Now I want to have a look at the other people design. On the right, I can see your account. So if I want, for example, to see the design, let's say from Carl or from Sarah, I can just compare. Sarah is not saved, not selected diagram yet. I can choose many. Carl, let's see.
No, I haven't made a design either.
Okay. Oh, let's say Andrew. Okay. I
Then
can
you-
see
oh,
to the left it is my
Andrew
design. To the right it is Andrew design. Okay. So I can compare the two. And if I like Andrew design, I can import his selection to my design. Okay. But this, we can stop here because otherwise it's too much for today. Okay.
all right. In other words, this tool allows any of you to contribute to anybody else's design in your team and import and export to each other over space. All right. Now, look, I need to, Michele,
Any question?
let me turn on my share screen.
Okay, I will unshare mine. Please, you can go. Okay, you are on.
You're on. Okay, let me summarize. Let me summarize what we've done. We've introduced you to a very complicated problem. There's no way for you to remember this. When we're finished with this meeting, it'll be very soon, we're going to finish it. I will email everybody a link through a piece of software called WeTransfer. I'm going to transfer to everybody access to the PowerPoint which I showed. Everybody has been assigned to a team in an email which I previously have sent to everybody. I realize that some people came late. Our Kazakhstan colleagues, most of you who are here came late into the meeting. We still don't know why. I don't know why. So we need to communicate about what happened that made it late, so we can correct it for the workshop. Everybody is in a team with 2 or 3 other people. The tasks by Monday at noon in London, British Standard Time, the aim of the task is not to make a design, but rather to produce a diverse set of ideas from which a design will emerge in several iterations. For every system, each team must make at least one diagram. In other words, Gulnara is the coordinator for Jawahir, who's not here, Setterwood, and a Chinese colleague whose name I don't know because I don't know Chinese, and he didn't answer an email, or she, that asked for the name in English. So right now, Gulnara and Cedarwood are both here, and maybe there are only two of them working. I don't know. But each team has to make 10 diagrams, one for each system, of policies or projects which are in their interest. No diagram should be bigger than the target for that system, which is in the PowerPoint. The diagram should not be compound. It should only have one polygon or one linear element. It should be labeled in a concise content description. If the diagram is an IGC innovation, add the IGC code. For example, green 1 is a linear forested corridor. You need to meet either on Skype or Zoom or whatever, or email, as a team and decide how to proceed. You've all been assigned, each team by number, to one of the tasks. For example, Gulnara is team number 1, and she is Metro. Team number 2 is the developers. Team number 3 is the green. Team number 4 is farmers, etc., as in the PowerPoint. You have to decide who makes which diagrams. For example, Gulnara might make transportation, industry, and commerce, and institutions, and Cedarwood might make green and water and culture. I don't know. That's up to you. Those diagrams have to be made in the real project. And everybody will be getting the access code to the real project. These are not to be made in the sandbox. You can practice in the sandbox, but these projects that you're making by Monday at noon have to be in the real project. Then meet on Zoom 20 minutes before the starting time to join the real workshop and the real project so that we can reorganize the teams as needed. And I expect that we're going to have to reorganize some of the teams if people drop out or don't do their share of work between now and Monday. If it turns out that you're now with us, but that you know that you cannot attend the workshop, please have the courtesy to tell me as soon as you know, so that I know how to reorganize the teams and can do it before 9 o'clock on the workshop day, so we don't waste time of everybody in the reorganization. I need to be able to do it before the workshop begins. So you're going to have to meet as a team. You're going to have to get into the real project. You're going to practice possibly where you're making a diagram, but make the diagrams in the real project. They have to be good, usable, defendable diagrams. If you have questions, you can email Michele, you can email me, you can email Rishi, but try not to trouble Rishi unless it's technical. And we look forward to seeing you in the workshop as per the schedule. Are there any questions now? Can I say something to all of our colleagues? Michele, can you hear me?
Yeah, so sure.
I'm not going to now get out of screen share, and I'd like to actually be able to see everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to go into Zoom.
In the meantime, please note that I copied the link to the real project in the chat. The code is the standard route, www.geodesignhub.com/join/g6 It is, you can cut and paste from the chat. So practice diagram drawing in the sandbox. When you feel ready, you can go and make each team one diagram per system, at least one diagram per system in the real project. And I would suggest the team leader to contact the other, and so that you can arrange how to meet, and just to decide basically who in the team is doing which the diagram in which system.
That's right. You've actually learned the most important steps. This is a very sophisticated program. It has all kinds of additional things that it can do. But the tasks that we've gone through in the last half hour or 45 minutes are the most important things that are always done in these projects. And they're very simple, but we're using very simple diagrams to make very complicated designs. And that's very useful. Let me say something while everybody's listening. We had a problem this morning connecting our colleagues from Kazakhstan. And do we know why? Gulnara, do you know why we couldn't get you into the project early enough, into the meeting early enough?
Did you have any technical problem?
Dear colleagues, dear Professor Karlsteins, I'm Gulnara Nusupova.
Very happy.
Yes, I am very glad to see and hear you. And we have the problem with internet connection and the access to your site, your design hub. And we understand all tasks, all our competition, and all okay.
So Nara, I need to ask you two questions. I made the decision to mix the countries of the teams. We have a large Chinese contingent and we have a large Kazakhstan contingent. Would it be easier for you and your colleagues from Kazakhstan? Is it better to have it mixed from your perspective, or is it better to have the Kazakhs in one set of groups and Heng, for example, and Bing? Is it easier for you to work with somebody from Kazakhstan and better, or is it easier for you to work with somebody who's speaking Mandarin or Chinese, classical Chinese? I could do it either way for the real workshop. What's best for you?
For us, the team from Kazakhstan, it is the group of Central Asia countries, such as Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, because we was USSR and we have Russian language, we understand, and it is easy for us.
What about the Chinese colleagues? Should I reorganize the teams by Chinese to Chinese, and the people from India and New Zealand and England, they can all be in English, and I can make an English team, a Chinese team, and Kazakh teams, Chinese teams? Is that better, or would you rather work across countries? Bing, what do you think?
I think cross-country is good. Cross-country is good.
Okay, I understand, and I meet with my groups and discuss about and write to your email, okay?
Very good. If you meet with your group, email me. I can do it two different ways even. I can make some people in English and some people in Chinese and some people in Kazakh or Russian or whatever you want to speak. But I need guidance. And if you give me a personal email, I will try to figure out a way to make everybody happiest in their work and make it easiest for them. All right? Now.
Okay, Professor Karlsteins, we have the collaboration with a lot of countries, from Austrian, ZGIS, Joseph Strobel, and Hungary, Bela Marcus, and a lot of international collaboration.
I know, I'm aware of this, and that's why I asked Joseph. Joseph is an old colleague and friend. I've taught in Salzburg with him, that's why I asked Joseph to contact all of the people in your conference, which would have been previous this month. I'm aware of this. We can still invite 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 colleagues. We have somebody from Tajikistan already in the system, but that person is in the Europe version that we're giving later today. So if there are other colleagues who want to join us, we can handle 1 or 2 or 3 more, but not more than that, because unless we have dropouts, all right, unless we have people dropping out. I need to know from people what their preference is. And if you, Gulnara, if you know somebody that you think should be invited, then contact that person, have them contact me, telling me that you talked to them, and I'll bring them into the group. Okay, I can do that still.
Okay, okay.
And so everybody should think about what's best for you, but everybody in the current teams has to talk and figure out how to get these diagrams. Without these diagrams, by Monday, we have a big problem in keeping the workshop to 4 hours, which is psychologically very important, okay?
Okay.
That's understood by everybody. All right, Michele, anything last on your part?
No, unless there are any further questions from the participant.
Okay, then in that case, we look forward to seeing your diagrams. Michele and I will see your diagrams on Monday. And we look forward to seeing you at the workshop 20 minutes before it begins. All right? Very good. Thank you.
Right. Yes, okay.
Very good. Look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.